YouTube boxing is in trouble. Just a couple of years ago, everyone was talking about it, the excitement, the hype, the celebrities jumping in. Fights like Deji vs Wasabi had the whole internet buzzing. But in 2025, things are looking a lot rougher. So today, we're going through some fights that could bring YouTube boxing back to life, starting with one that fans have been waiting on for years, the long overdue rematch between Deji and Alex Wasabi. It's honestly wild that this fight still hasn't happened. Their first bout took place about 3 years ago, and ever since, Alex Wasabi has been calling Deji out non-stop. Meanwhile, Deji's been catching heat for his recent opponents. Fans say he's not taking on real challenges or facing fighters that people actually want to see. Everyone remembers that Alex beat him in their first matchup under Showstar, and now there's unfinished business. People want to see if Deji can redeem himself and finally even the score. The truth is, fans are frustrated with Deji's fight choices. He's been taking easy matchups, fighting Swarms, then the Wood Savage, and even after that, he's hinted he might not fight again. But if Deji does return, it has to be against Alex Wasabi. That's the fight that makes sense, that fans want, and that would actually push him to show up at his best. Because let's be honest, when he fought the Wood Savage, it was a strange performance. He lost the first 2 rounds to a guy with a 0-5 record. Deji needs to be tested again. Fans have said for years that Deji has one of the highest potentials in the influencer boxing scene. But his biggest enemy has always been discipline and focus. A rematch with Wasabi would force him to take things seriously again. It's a fight that could reignite his career and remind people what Deji can actually do, especially if it happens under Misfits, where all the eyes of YouTube boxing are. There's really no point in taking any other fight right now. Maybe Bryce Hall could make sense, but the real move, the real statement, is Alex Wasabi. And now, the next fight fans have been waiting on: Wade Concept vs HS Tiki Taki. Originally, this was supposed to be Wade's debut, his first big step into the ring against an up-and-comer with a lot of buzz. HS Tiki Taki had momentum, a fan base, and Misfits had been talking about him as one of their future pound-for-pound stars. It was shaping up to be a perfect matchup: Wade, the face of YouTube boxing media, finally fighting, and Tiki Taki, the hungry fighter with something to prove. But the fight got cancelled, and fans still haven't gotten over it. This matchup needs to be rebooked. Both fighters bring something valuable. Wade has a loyal Misfits audience, and Tiki Taki has the backing of Misfits management, who clearly believe in him. Wade's recent win showed he's improving, and interestingly, he fought the same guy HS had previously pulled out against, Mosai Warrior. So, it's only logical that Wade vs HS happens next. The storylines are there, the fan interest is real, and it could produce a new breakout star for Misfits. Whoever wins this one walks away with serious momentum and a big audience behind them. And finally, one fight that needs to happen: Gib vs Salt Poppy. Fans have been asking for this matchup for ages, and for good reason. It's not just another influencer fight, it's a stylistic dream. Both guys are similar in weight and height, but their styles couldn't be more different. Salt Poppy's slick counterpunching and timing versus Gibbs' non-stop forward pressure, insane stamina, and relentless pace, that's a recipe for fireworks. This fight could easily be one of the most exciting bouts outside of the big names like KSA, Jake Paul, or Logan Paul. Both men are respected in the scene, both have earned their stripes, and both bring a ton of fan interest. A matchup like Gibb vs Salt Poppy isn't just another fight, it's one that defines where YouTube boxing goes next. Yeah, I'd say the hype for this fight is probably at its peak right now. Salt Poppy is finally back in the Misfits ring with a big win, and after his earlier setback against Slim, which definitely slowed down his momentum, that comeback performance reignited the crowd. His knockout of King Kenny on the last huge Misfits card reminded everyone why fans fell in love with him in the first place. On the other hand, Gib made his Misfits debut in style, taking out Slim and solidifying himself as one of the top names in influencer boxing. Both of these wins massively boosted their stock, and honestly, this is the perfect time to make that matchup happen. Fans want it, and it makes complete sense for both sides. The only real reason this fight might not happen comes down to Gibb himself. After his win over Slim, he might view a fight with Salt Poppy as a step backward, at least in his eyes. Gibb's been vocal about chasing bigger names, possibly MMA fighters or opponents outside of the YouTube boxing world. You can't blame him for that either, he's earned the right to chase those high-profile paydays. But still, a fight with Salt Poppy isn't one to overlook. Papi's got the skills, the explosiveness, and the fanbase to make it a major event. He's already proven he's game for any challenge, and this would be one that truly tests both of them. Now, when it comes to Gibbs' direction, it's tricky. He's in a powerful position right now, fresh off one of the biggest wins of his career, on top of the Misfits world, and with the ability to pick and choose his next move. Naturally, he's looking for fights that make sense financially and legacy-wise. Still, Salt Papi is a real threat. His timing, power, and counterpunching ability could give Gibbs serious problems stylistically. A lot of people think this could be one of Gibbs' toughest matchups yet, which is exactly why fans are calling for it. Now let's talk about something nobody expected, a potential Conor McGregor crossover into influencer boxing. There's been constant buzz about it lately, rumors of him facing Logan Paul, Jake Paul, or even KSI. After all the talk and social media back and forth, people are genuinely curious if it could happen. McGregor is still tied to the UFC under Dana White, which makes things complicated, but that hasn't stopped him from teasing these fights online. He's been posting, calling these guys out, and talking about how massive those matchups would be. And he's not wrong. If Conor McGregor ever steps into this space, it instantly becomes the biggest crossover event influencer boxing has ever seen. It's honestly wild to think about where McGregor's career has gone. Not too long ago, his hit list included names like Michael Chandler, Islam Makhachev, and Charles Oliveira, the absolute top tier of the UFC's lightweight division. This was a guy who once held titles in 2 weight classes and was one of the biggest names in combat sports history. Fast forward to now, and he's exchanging words with Logan Paul, Jake Paul, and KSI. Just a few years back, he wouldn't even acknowledge these guys. Now he's on social media calling them out and even confronting Logan Paul face to face, saying, "Why are you quiet? Let's make this fight happen." It's bizarre to see, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense. McGregor has always chased attention, big money, and big moments. A fight with Logan Paul or Jake Paul guarantees all three. From what it looks like right now, that Logan Paul fight seems to be the one he's really pushing for. Whether it's realistic or not is another story, but there's no denying the potential. 2 massive names, 2 of the biggest personalities in combat sports. It would be an event that breaks the internet. We've seen how crazy these matchups can get. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson had people talking for months, and McGregor entering this scene would take that hype to another level. He's made it clear he wants KSI as well, but it's tough to know how serious any of this is. Lately, it's been a lot of talk, not much action, but with Conor, you never really know. The second he decides to step in, everything in influencer boxing changes overnight. Yeah, to be honest, the chances of Conor McGregor actually stepping in to fight one of these influencer boxers are pretty slim. We've been hearing about him versus Michael Chandler in the UFC for years now, and it still hasn't happened. So, realistically, it's hard to believe that he's suddenly going to face Jake Paul, Logan Paul, or KSI. But even with the odds stacked against it, the possibility alone has people talking. It's that kind of what-if excitement that always keeps McGregor in the headlines. At this point, Conor has called out just about everyone. He said he's fighting Logan Paul, he said he's fighting KSI, he's called out Charles Oliveira, he's gone after Michael Chandler for years. Honestly, he's all over the place. Ever since his injury in the UFC, it feels like McGregor's been trying to find his next big moment, and while these influencer matchups get attention, part of me just wants to see him back where he belongs, in the octagon. He's still relatively young, around 35, and I think fans deserve to see what he's got left before these crossover fights take over completely. The influencer fights will always be there later. But if McGregor has anything left in the tank, now's the time to show it inside the UFC. Now, moving on to the biggest fight in YouTube boxing, the one that everybody has been waiting for, KSI versus Jake Paul. This is the fight that defines YouTube boxing. Every single year, people talk about it, debate it, and wonder when it's finally going to happen. It's been dragged on for so long now that fans are just desperate to see it settled. Both sides keep pointing fingers. One side says Jake's ducking, the other says KSI's avoiding him, and honestly, everyone's just tired of the excuses. We just want to see them fight. This matchup is the pinnacle of YouTube boxing. Ever since KSI beat Logan Paul and Jake went on his own run, this fight has been inevitable. It's the clash that would mark the true peak of the entire influencer boxing era. It's crazy to think about, but it's been nearly 7 years in the making. Ever since KSI called out both Logan and Jake after beating Joe Weller back in 2018, this storyline has been building. And with both of them still active, still relevant, and still talking about each other, it feels like it has to happen. KSI is back training, Jake's still fighting regularly, and both of them are saying they want it. The biggest barrier at this point seems to be the weight issue and, of course, the usual negotiations. Hopefully, that all gets worked out soon because fans have waited long enough. KSI has gotten a fair amount of criticism lately too, especially after his recent opponent announcement, Wayne Bridge. A lot of people weren't impressed, saying it's not a step forward compared to Jake Paul's level of competition or even a challenge against a real pro boxer. But KSI's team says he's using these fights as a warm-up, keeping his eyes locked on the big one, Jake Paul. The weight difference has been a talking point for ages, but it finally looks like both sides might be finding a middle ground. If that happens, and they can get on the same page, there's no reason why this fight can't go down in 2025. Until then, though, it's still all talk. Now, if for whatever reason KSI vs Jake Paul doesn't happen right away, there are still some other exciting options. Darren Till is one of them. He just made his Misfits debut and looked impressive, beating Anthony Taylor in dominant fashion. A matchup between Till and either Jake Paul or KSI would definitely bring hype. Till's got real MMA pedigree and star power. For KSI specifically, there's also been some buzz around a possible fight with Amir Khan. That would be a massive one, especially for the UK audience. And while KSI's Wayne Bridge announcement wasn't ideal, to be fair, he's been out of the ring for a while, so easing back in might make sense before taking on a big-name opponent. And of course, there's still Tommy Fury, the man both KSI and Jake Paul have lost to. Tommy's made it clear that he's open to rematches with either of them. He's been calling out everyone, even Conor McGregor, chasing those big paydays. But make no mistake, those rematches are still on the table, and fans would love to see one of them run it back with Fury in the near future. So, with that being said, those are some of the biggest and most wanted matchups for YouTube boxing in 2025. Whether it's Deji vs Wasabi 2, Gib vs Salt Poppy, or finally Jake Paul vs KSI, these are the fights that could bring the scene back to its peak. Let us know down in the comments which fight you want to see most in 2025. This has been the first episode of Fight Kings. Thanks so much for watching, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.